Hi, my name is Carlo Perdente. I was born in the Bronx, New York in December 1974. I always felt responsible for Gerald Ford. The first thing I remember liking that liked me back was Juan, this Puerto Rican kid from up the street. I had a bad puberty. It ended last Thursday. I went to the High School of Performing Arts. For my entrance exam, I sang like a virgin. I decided to move out of the house when I was 24. My mother still refers to this as the happiest day of her entire life. Eventually, I went to Manhattan, which is full of cold bitches. Now I'm moving to Los Angeles. New York, you can go f*** yourself.
This man is always ready. He's incredible because he sings, he acts, he produces, he writes. He does it all. Michael Vaccaro. There he is. Look at that.
Hi, should I sing as well? Hi.
Oh my God, I love your voice. I always have.
Hello.
Hello. Well, that was a
something else.
little combination of Ethel Merman and somebody else.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh, right. Oh my God. And how are you today?
I'm good. I realized I'm sitting out here in the beautiful Southern California sunshine.
Yeah.
Enjoying my day. And I should have had a cocktail. I realized I should be drinking a martini during this. But
you want to get one? Get one for me too. I do.
Right, I'll call in, because you can have them delivered now. So.
In a glass?
I don't. Well, in a plastic cup, I'm sure.
With an umbrella?
We could ask for that. That might be extra.
So.
But yes, hi. Oh, hi. How are you, David?
I'm okay. That was so much fun with Karen.
I loved it. I love talking to you, and I love talking to John Russell and Mary Jo Mundy and Karen Morrow, and I love talking about Karen Morrow, what my experience was like with her many years ago, and how Karen really sort of changed my perspective as a performer, certainly as a cabaret performer. She really ushered me into that whole world, and so it's always great to see her and always great to talk.
I think you were the first person in the cabaret community, and one of the first people in Hollywood that I met when I started going out and exploring.
I believe so. We meet at the Cinegrill at an mic night on I believe it was Tuesday nights. I believe Todd Schroeder was the pianist.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the best out there.
Yeah, I used to go there every Tuesday night, and it was at the Cinegrill. J.D. Kessler was the manager at the time, and used to go there every Tuesday to sort of find material, to listen to other singers and see what they were doing. And I met you, and I met JD, and I believe that's where I met John Russell as well.
Wow.
Probably even Mary Jo Mundy, and then I ended up in Karen's class, which was also at the Cinegrill cabaret class for cabaret.
I thought, from the first moment I saw you have such presence, whether you're on stage singing or whether you're acting on screen or TV or wherever. You just, and especially back then, you had hair down to your ass.
I had very long blonde hair. I was bleaching my hair blonde at the time, yes, and it was very long because I still had that Leif Garrett thing going.
Right.
1977, but unfortunately, when I was doing it in the late 80s and early 90s, it was done.
Yeah. Right.
I wasn't doing myself any favors, but I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. And now you look great with the hair and short.
Well, I finally I finally stopped dyeing the hair and have accepted my 56-year-old white hair, which actually I really love.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I bet it gets you a lot of work.
The truth is that since I had been fighting this for so many years because my hair went gray very early. I
was fighting it for so many years because I didn't want to, and all my reps, my representation agents and managers and stuff throughout the years, all kept telling me, you got to dye your hair. You don't want to, I'm not going to be able to send you out if you let your hair go and all that stuff. And finally, I just got tired of dyeing it. It was obnoxious and absurd, and it cost too much money. And my bathroom was a mess because it gets all over the place. And since that day, I've pretty much never stopped working.
Wow.
I sort of found my niche. I'm the middle-aged evil white CEO.
There
That's
you
most of the jobs I get. I get a lot of music videos, a lot of rap artists hire me. Drake hired me to be the evil white CEO. Slick Rick and Kendrick Lamar. They all hired me to play the evil white CEO, or the old white judge, or the old white lawyer, or all that stuff.
I wouldn't say old. Just because you have white hair doesn't mean you're old.
Well, no, but
distinguished.
This distinguished and middle aged. That's yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you grew up. What?
It's been great. No, it's just been great. Finally, it's a whole thing about accepting yourself who you really are, which has been great. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I love that. So you grew up in New York?
I grew up in New York City. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Bronx, just like J-Lo and Cardi B. It's J-Lo and Cardi B and Michael.
Right.
But also Lauren Bacall and Al Pacino and Hal Linden, and there are just hundreds of thousands of very famous people who came out of the Bronx. So yes, born and raised in the Bronx, and I think I was 11, 12 years old when we actually moved from the Bronx to Manhattan. I grew up in an area of Manhattan called Tribeca until I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I moved out to sunny California.
Oh, in your 20s, mid 20s?
I moved out to California. I think I was 24 or 25. And I love it here. I think of myself as an expat, but I will always love New York. I will always be a New Yorker. Whenever I go home to New York, it's home. I feel comfortable, but I love living here in Southern California. I love working.
Yeah. So was it acting or singing first?
You mean like
for you?
In my life, yeah, I think it was. I mean, definitely singing and dancing. So I started out doing musical theater, musical comedy. I don't remember how old I was when my mother took me to the Ziegfeld Theater. Well, first of all, let me go back a little bit.
Right.
In 1964, March of 1964, my mother went to, this is the old joke, but it's true. My mother went to the Winter Garden Theater to see Streisand, Funny Girl, while she was pregnant. And March, April, May, June. So 3 months later, I was born, June of 1964. And there's a very famous newspaper headline in the New York Daily News, and it says, "Baby boy born singing people." I came out knowing the score to Funny Girl.
Oh my God! Well, that explains everything.
That's the joke, right? And so then, 4 years later, the first movie that I ever saw in a movie theater, again in the Bronx at the Bainbridge Movie Theater, was Funny Girl, 1968.
Yeah.
And then at some point, my mother took me to see That's Entertainment. It's this great documentary called That's Entertainment. And she took me to the Ziegfeld Theater to see the movie That's Entertainment, which was a showcase of all the MGM musicals. And I remember it very specifically, falling in love immediately. That's what I wanted to do. So I started singing lessons and dancing lessons. And most of the jobs that I had early on until I was well into my 20s, actually, were all musical theater. So that was definitely my first love. And then I had a recording.
A what?
A recording contract with Columbia Records in 1977.
How did that happen? How did that come about?
I answered an ad in Backstage back in the day. Backstage was an actual newspaper magazine that came out once a week on Thursdays, and they were for a kid to be part of a musical group, and I auditioned and I got it. It was me and two girls, and One of the girls was Trini Alvarado, who became a huge movie star and Broadway star, and the other one was Natalie Toro, who also became a huge Broadway star. And so the three of us were a little group. It was 1977. I remember because I went to see Star Wars, and then we had a recording session, and we were all talking about how amazed we were by Star Wars. So yeah, so I had a recording contract with Columbia when I was a kid. So yes, to answer your question, it was singing and dancing.
I love. That's the first time I remember seeing you again. You know, on that stage singing, and that staple. Whenever I first think of a song, I always think of Billy, Don't Be a Hero.
Right.
And
that was my signature song.
Yeah.
A medley of Billy, Don't Be a Hero and Last Dance. I like to. It became very popular in my cabaret. I always did it. I think I ended all of my shows. But that's what I love to do. I love to take material that people, Billy Don't Be a Hero is sort of absurd on one level. But this actually happened when I was working with Karen Morrow. When you start really delving into the lyrics and what the song is saying, the story, I realized it was Billy Don't Be a Hero. The song is very poignant. So when I mixed it with Last Dance, it was to me in my mind it was poignant and beautiful, but it was also hilarious and which I love riding that riding that line between beauty and absurdity, and that sort of
right.
Yes, and that sort of became my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I something just to interject here too. It's like I'm going to throw out a name and see
Okay, please.
what comes up.
Oh, it's psychological. Okay, good. I'm ready.
William Shakespeare. I didn't expect that one.
Okay, no, I didn't. You want just a one-word answer to that, or you want like
whatever you want to give me?
I can tell you a great story about William Shakespeare. Not about William Shakespeare, but about me. When I turned, because I was an actor my entire life, and I started as a child actor, and I got into SAG. I want to say I was 8 years old.
How old?
I was 8, I think, when I got into SAG.
Wow.
The initiation fee was, I believe, $200 back then. So that's how long ago it was. Right now, it's like $1 million. But so anyway, I had spent my whole life as an actor, and then when I was 40 years old, I turned 40. I did one of those bucket lists. Although it wasn't called a bucket list at the time, it was before the movie, The Bucket List.
Right.
But I wrote a list of all the things that I wanted to do, all the things that I would regret not doing when I was really old and in a nursing home dying, right? And so literally number one on that list was Shakespeare. I had never done Shakespeare my entire life as an actor in New York City in the theater. And it was always because I felt dumb. I always felt like I was not smart enough to understand Shakespeare. So when I turned 40, it was the number one thing on my list that I wanted to do, to cross off my list. So I started taking Shakespeare classes. Long story short, Shakespeare then became what I did just exclusively for like 10 years.
For 10 years?
For almost 10 years in New York City. I was doing pretty much only Shakespeare plays. And I fell in love with Shakespeare. Not only did I fall in love with it, but what I realized was that once you sort of figure out the puzzle, it's actually really simple. Shakespeare actually does all of the work for you. It's all in the words. All you have to do is honestly speak the words. And he does all for you. Shakespeare has become one of the things that I love most in life. And just sitting down and reading Shakespeare and performing Shakespeare and Shakespeare.
Nice. Yeah, it is a tough thing. It is a scary thing for a lot of people. I mean, for me too. I was like, Shakespeare. So it's wonderful. And you said you did it in New York, so you moved back to New York for a while.
I was going back and forth between LA and New York for many years. Finally, in 2009, LA sort of became my permanent home. I gave up the New York apartment finally. So I was definitely going back.
Mm.
And when I was doing Shakespeare in my 40s, I had back to New York and was spending.
So who is your favorite actor and who of all time, and who would you like to work with now?
Oh, well, those are okay. Those are two different questions. So my favorite actor of all time, still, person who really made me want to become an actor, like a serious actor, is Al Pacino. When I saw, I think it was Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. It was he specific. The movie is fantastic. He was specifically Al Pacino was mesmerizing to me. And it was then somewhat later when he was in New York City doing a production of American Buffalo, played by David Tennant.
Yeah.
And it was at a theater which no longer exists, unfortunately. Well, it doesn't exist in that space anymore. It was called Circle in the Square, and at the time it was in the village on Baker Street. It was a very small, intimate theater. It was literally a circle in the square. And I was sitting in the first row of this theater, and Al Pacino was right there. Al Pacino was like 3 feet away from me. Wow. And I was watching him do this amazing play, American Buffalo, and so compelling and so just strong and fascinating. Like I could not take my eyes off the theater. And so I've always loved Al Pacino, and I continue to love him still. I thought he was absolutely amazing in oh my God, now I'm blanking. What was the name of The Irishman?
Oh,
last year. And I just think he is I just think he's an amazing, fascinating. I would love to work with him, but there are lots of people I would love to work with. I actually have a whole list in my head of directors who I want. I've always wanted to do a Woody Allen movie. I did a Woody Allen movie a million years ago. I had one line or two lines in Radio Days. But it was so fascinating because even though Woody Allen directed it, I didn't barely said 2 words to them. Like
yeah.
I want to do a Woody Allen movie where I actually work.
Yeah.
I've started writing screenplays. I have 2 screenplays now. One of them I want Tom Ford to direct. And one of them I want, there's an Italian Turkish director named Ferzan Özpetek, who I want him to direct this other screenplay that I wrote. I want to work with Martin Scorsese, of course. I want to work with, do you know who George Miller is?
Yeah.
George Miller directed Witches of Eastwick and the Mad Max movies and Babe. He's actually one of my favorite directors. So there are tons of actors
Right.
Of course, I want to be in Barbra Streisand's final movie, whatever that happens to be.
Well, hopefully she'll do one more. Yes.
Hopefully she'll do one more, and I would love to.
At least one more, right?
Yeah, and I want to be on Grace and Frankie, and I want to work with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin.
Oh my God, what a great show!
Yeah, and if I want to work with Al Pacino, I would love to be on Hunters. Have you watched Hunters on Amazon?
No, but I'm craving to see that. Thank you for reminding me.
You have to watch it. It's actually it's fascinating the way they did it. It's really smart, and it's also really funny. When you think about Nazi Hunters, it's not particularly hilarious material, but
right.
They do it in such a way that it's really actually very comical. And Carol Kane's in it. She's absolutely brilliant. And there's another actress in it named Jeannie Berlin, who is like fall down on the floor. I worked with her mother, Elaine May, many years ago in a film called Ishtar. I would love to work with Jeannie Berlin and talk to her about working with her mother, Elaine.
Were you Ishtar with?
Yes, with Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty. Yes, I had 2 scenes with Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty, most of which was cut out. But the experience was quite amazing.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about writing, and I remember this time that you got home and said, I guess you were in New York and you flew here and you said, I just wrote a show. And I went, what? And that was Child of the 70s.
Yes. Yeah, Child of the 70s. Yes, I had. Well, should I tell the whole story about how that came to be?
Sure.
Because it's because of you. Because Meet the Biz shop about creating your own content, which was hosted, I guess. Hosted, is that the right word? Taught. The teachers, the moderators, whatever, were Terry Ray and Larry LaFont. It was about creating your own content. And so, and I went and I sat there and I watched, and I left there knowing that I had to create my own content. So I ended up, because of that experience, I ended up writing Child of the 70s, which was a web series. It was a sort of an idea that I had in my head for 10 years. But then after that, I finally wrote it, and I wrote the first season. It's a sitcom. And I wrote it, and then loved it so much. Loved it. It was the first time that I had really written a script, and loved the script so much that I thought, well, I can't just let this sit in a desk drawer somewhere. I have to do something with this.
Right.
So I figured out how to raise money, and I figured out how to produce it, and we got it produced, and we shot the first season, which then turned into 5 more seasons.
Well, and thank you, by the way, for letting me, swim in your world for a little while. It was fun to be your.
You did. You swam a lot in that world. Bernie Steinberg.
Bernie
Steinberg, which is the whole show is sort of an homage to my favorite 1970s sitcoms. For those of you out there who are watching this now and have not seen it, you should go find Child of the 70s. You can find it on Amazon Prime. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Deku. But it's sort of my homage to 70s sitcoms, specifically Rhoda, which this is my favorite sitcom of all time. But I took a lot of things from a lot of sitcoms. And Bernie Steinberg, of course, is a character actually from a show called Bridget Loves Bernie. And so that's why I named the character Bernie Steinberg, and that's what you ended up playing in 4 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons.
Something like that. It was interesting. The other day, Terry Ray came on,
yes.
and we were talking about it, and I said, I always had wished and hoped that Bernie and the two of them would, become an item. But Terry said, yeah, but you kept on ending up in the hospital.
Bernie Steinberg ended up in a coma for much of his time there. One coma and then another coma, and then, yeah.
For different reasons, which you'll find out when you watch it.
When you go and watch it, that's right. But yes, Bernie always bounced back.
Yes, he did, damn it.
He always came out of the coma, and then was there at the very end. Bernie is in the very final episode.
That was nice. That was fun.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And then, from that, you just started like pumping it out. I mean, you're doing Aunt Sissy now, you're doing the Zoom trilogy, you're doing, God, it keeps on going.
Writing has turned into something that I really love doing. And it's one of those things that I didn't know that I could do until I did it. And so, it started with Child of the 70s. I wrote 5 seasons of that. Then Terry and I got together afterwards, and we wrote some new pilot episode for another web series that we'd like to get produced called Fathers-in-Law.
Yes.
And I have another pilot that I'm trying to get out there as well, which is about horny flight attendants.
Oh, that sounds good. Are you one of the flight attendants as well?
Hopefully, because I've written a lot of sex scenes.
Oh, well, there you go.
So hopefully, it's a group of international flight attendants who fly all over the world and have crazy sex with each other and others. So I wrote that. And yes, and since you mentioned it, during this whole COVID-19 thing, we've all been stuck at home. I have been doing a lot of writing. I wrote a screenplay, which I ended up finishing. and it takes place in Italy. So my dream is to go to Italy and shoot it at Cinecittà, which is the film studio in Rome. And I wrote a few short films. One's called Same Time Tomorrow, and then there's the whole Zoom anthology, which is it's turned into a whole series of short films about relationships that happen over Zoom.
Same Time Tomorrow was gorgeous. Wasn't that the about like during the pandemic?
Correct. That's right. Same Time Tomorrow specifically, it's about the pandemic, and it's two people who have been having this online long distance relationship with each other, and have finally decided to meet in person. And my character has gotten a plane ticket to go to Rome, to Italy, and to meet this guy who he's been having this relationship with online for many months. But then the pandemic actually forces them to postpone that trip, and what happens because of that. Yeah, that one is called Same Time Tomorrow, and the others are all comedies. The Zoom anthology are all comedies. So I wrote a new one.
Yeah,
it's called calling it Zoom Cocktails, which is about four men having a Zoom cocktail hour. But they get into a whole long discussion about the Black Lives Matter movement.
of what?
Black Lives Matter movement, and
yeah.
how that what the sort of it sounds funny, but it's sort of a gay white man's take on Black lives. I thought it was really interesting to write, and we're gonna shoot it in a few days, and I have some extra special guest stars who I can't talk about just yet. We're in it, but it'll be on your YouTube and out on your interwebs in a few weeks, I think.
Well, I look forward to seeing it. I always love like going to your Facebook page or your Instagram and saying, "Ooh, there's something new from Michael." It's like boom, boom, boom. It's like it reminded me of that scene, the song "Every Sperm Is Sacred," and the babies keep popping out.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's like your work.
Well, the thing is, I did this. I have done this thing like for a long time now, for many years, but specifically during this COVID-19 thing, we've all sort of been forced to isolate and stay. It's always very important to me. This is what we wanted to talk about. It's always very important for me to literally every single day do something, whether that's go to an audition or go to a job or write something or take a class or something. I feel it's really important to every single day sharpen your skills, I guess is how I would say it. Use the tools in the toolbox. But however that manifests. And if it's just an audition or actually a job, sitting and writing, so whatever it happens to be, I like to end each day knowing that I've done something career, something creative, also done something for my body and my physical health, like work out or something active. Also do something spiritual, make sure I meditate every day. So I like doing that at the end of every day, like a sort of a checklist. Things that I've accomplished during that day and things that I'm grateful for during the day. It's really helpful. And especially during this time, it's just, for me, it's been tremendously helpful to stay creative. And in fact, it's forced me to be creative in new, different ways. And I've gotten through this whole period like feeling really joyful. I mean, despite all the horrible things that are happening in the country now, it's enabled me to stay joyful.
Yeah.
It's, for me, creativity equals joy.
I wanted to throw out one thing is
Yeah, please do.
one of my favorite pieces that I think you should be winning awards after awards after awards is the short that you did, that moment death becomes less scary.
Oh, yes, right.
It was, I mean, I watched it last night. Every time I see that, I start crying. It is one of the most raw, brilliant pieces I've seen you do. It's wonderful.
Thank you for that. That was it's documentary. Is that the right word for it? It's my story, and it's just me telling my story, and you know the story, but for those people who don't, very briefly, I was married to the love of my life, got very ill, and died. And so this little film that I did, it's just me telling that story. What I learned from that experience, um, very simply, although it's not so simple. I was with him. I was with him. He died. He actually died. I was holding him. He was in my arms when he died, and I had this incredible experience. I mean, it was obviously incredibly painful, but it was also I'm very grateful. I have a lot of gratitude that he allowed me to share that experience. He allowed me to be there with him at that moment. One of the many things that I actually was the fact that when he died, he stopped breathing. It was and all of a sudden, some sort of incredible knowledge that I had that he was gone. That his name was Antonio. That the spirit, the soul, the person that I knew as Antonio was gone, and that what was there with me in that bed that I was holding was just a body, and that he continued on. I hope I'm making sense. So it really took away the fear of death from me, because I knew that he was okay, safe. I knew that he was protected. I knew that his spirit, his energy, everything was continuing on, and his body was just a vessel, was just a shell that he had inhabited for a period of time. And so, if I knew that about him, then I realized I had to know that about myself. And it totally changed my perspective of what life is, what relationships are, who we are. And that sort of led me down this path of this spiritual path that I've been on since then. So, and it totally changed my totally. I think, despite the fact that it was a terribly tragic experience, it ultimately made me a stronger person, which is a hard thing to grasp when you're talking about. Remember when that concept sort of came to me, that because of that tragic experience, I was a person very angry. So my husband, the person I loved more than anything in the world, had to die in order for me to become a better person. That was very resentful.
In order to
But
what?
He had to die in order for me to become a better person. And I was very angry about that idea. The idea that something wonderful would come out of something so tragic. But I realized that it was the truth.
A lot of times that we go through stuff, big stuff, and it's the thing that, it might be a negative experience, but it changes us for the better.
Absolutely. That's what I found out. That's one of the many things that I found out. And so then I do this little film, which I tell that story. And the response is really overwhelming. Actually, people from all over the world still write to me, talk to me about their experiences and how they relate to what I was saying. So it's been tremendously, and it makes me happy that my story has been able to touch such a deep.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It heals. Where can people find you?
Oh my goodness. I am Michael Vaccaro on Facebook, and I am Michael Vaccaro on Twitter, and I am Michael Vaccaro on Instagram, and you can also go to www.michaelvaccaro.com and I'm on the IMDb. You can find me everywhere, everywhere.
Okay. I love it. Thank you for the visit. This is nice. I'm like interviewing you, but I know that, you know, we've hung out in Vegas with Bette Midler and
Yes.
Bruce. So, you know, again, like I said, you're one of my first friends that I met in LA. So I'm blessed.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that we're friends. And it's when did you move to Los Angeles? 1996?
6, I think. 96, yeah.
Do you remember what date?
I think it was March, and I'm trying to think it was 96 or 95. But I think it was March 1st. I wanted to move out January, but it turned out to be, I started hunting for places to live in January, but I actually moved all my stuff in March.
So March 1st, and do you think it was 96 or 95? Because if it's 95, that means we're celebrating our 25th anniversary.
You moved here at,
I moved here before that, but I'm saying the anniversary of when we met. It was in March of 95. That was 25 years ago. If it was 96, then our 25th anniversary is next year.
I think it's actually 95 because I remember it was the year after I saw Streisand in Vegas. So
everything always comes back to Barbra Streisand.
that happens.
All roads lead to Barbara. So then this is our 25th anniversary, David. Cheers. Yeah. I had a drink. Us.
L'chaim, I know you without a drink. You've got to have like a.
I know.
I've got. I see. Instead of this, I should have had a wine glass.
I promise you that's going to be happening in about 20 minutes.